Welcome to our Toolbox Talk here at THSP on supporting bereaved parents at work. My name's Sian Collin. I'm one of the HR consultants here. You may have been to some of our previous Toolbox Talks, been running them on a weekly basis, looking at a variety of topics. But as I said, this is all about supporting bereaved parents at work. I'll go through, here we go. So this is a deeply emotional and personal topic. Conversations around baby and child loss can be incredibly difficult for both employees experiencing grief and the employers trying to offer support. As employers, developing a thoughtful understanding of how baby and child loss affects people at work is essential. It allows us to respond with empathy, flexibility and care, and helps ensure that bereaved employees feel acknowledged, supported and safe in their workplace. Okay, so we have Jack's Law. You may not know of it as Jack's Law. In 2010, Jack Heard, a 23-month-old boy, tragically drowned. His mother Lucy had campaigned tirelessly after discovering there was no legal entitlement at the time for bereaved parents to take time off work. Lucy's campaign led to the creation of the Parental Bereavement Leave and Pay Regulations Act 2020, and this is also known as Jack's Law. So parental bereavement leave and pay regulations, who qualifies? So this is applicable for working parents, and that includes adoptive parents and certain carers who lose a child under 18 or suffer a stillbirth from 24 weeks of pregnancy. Employees will need to have worked for their employee continuously for at least 26 weeks up to the end of the week before the child's death or stillbirth. Leave entitlement. So this entitles the employee to 2 weeks of leave. This can be taken together or separately within 56 weeks of the child's death. Statutory pay. So if they're eligible, so employed for at least 26 weeks and earn above a set amount, employees can receive the statutory parental bereavement pay. There's also time off for dependents leave. So under the Employment Rights Act 1996, employees have the right to take reasonable unpaid time off to deal with an emergency involving a dependent. This includes the death of a child. It allows a parent to leave work immediately when a child dies, no requirement to give advance notice, helps manage urgent needs such as being present at the hospital, supporting a partner, informing family members and making funeral arrangements. The law protects employees from being dismissed. The law protects employees from being dismissed or treated unfairly for taking this time off. It reassures grieving parents that they can take urgent time away from work without the fear of job loss. Time off for dependents can be used in conjunction with parental bereavement leave. This flexibility helps parents manage the immediate aftermath while planning for longer time away. This also applies if parents need time off to care for a grieving partner, surviving children or other dependents impacted by the child's death. Leave is unpaid by default, but many employees may choose to pay or offer it as compassionate leave. Employers should not rely on time off for dependents alone. We recommend it should be used in combination or conjunction with the parental bereavement leave, compassionate leave policies and any additional emotional support. So supporting employees with child loss and bereavement, what can your company do? As employers, you can go well beyond legal requirements to support employees who experience miscarriage, stillbirth or the loss of a child. Doing so creates a more compassionate, loyal and resilient workforce. So there's enhanced compassionate leave. You can offer paid leave for miscarriage before 24 weeks. Currently, the law doesn't apply this at the moment. It's after 24 weeks. You could offer paid leave for stillbirth after 24 weeks if not eligible, and infant and child loss. You can look to be flexible with duration. Child loss and bereavement, it doesn't have set times and duration. Everybody deals with grief differently, and every employee will be different and they may need more or less time. You may find that people want to come back to work sooner because that's their kind of safe space, and everybody's different. You need to also consider leave for partners if you employ and the partner, if a mother's given birth, what support you can give them. And like I said, currently the legal framework for parental bereavement leave doesn't yet cover early pregnancy loss. The law is changing, and we'll look a bit at that later. Research by the charity Tommy's has found that most miscarriages happen in the first 12 weeks of pregnancy, and that early miscarriages happen to 10 to 20 in 100, so 10 to 20% of pregnancies. Currently, there is no statutory leave specifically for miscarriage, so employees are expected to use sick leave or time off for dependents, but generally this is at the statutory sick pay or unpaid. Offering paid time off removes financial stress, and it allows employees the time that they need to grieve. Mental health and emotional support. You could offer access to counselling if you have an internal resource or an employee assistance programme, EAP programme. You can ensure that your HR lead and line managers have been trained in bereavement support. They need to be able to talk to employees sensitively and avoid unhelpful cliches. They should be able to listen, but without problem solving. Encourage use of mental health days if you have that option within your business. Listen and very much be led by employees. Be flexible and anticipate change of mind. Follow up verbal conversations with information in writing. Another charity that provides some really helpful resources for companies to help bereaved parents are SANS, and I've put some links on there. SANS are the UK's leading charity supporting anyone affected by pregnancy loss or the death of a baby. They've conducted research that has shown that after returning to work, nearly 50% of employees reported that no one talked to them after the death of their baby, and 80% of employees were offered no internal or external bereavement support from their employer. Their research also found that women need up to 8 weeks off work following a miscarriage. 10% of parents remain off work for 6 months following their baby's stillbirth. 38% of mothers and 21% of partners reduced their working hours following their baby's stillbirth. 50% of employees did not feel supported by their employer. Around 49% of employers did not discuss entitlements to paid leave and leave with staff. 40% of employees were not offered any additional time away from work. And 43% reported that no one talked to them about their child when they returned to work. You can look at flexible working and return to work plans. So offer phased returns or temporary reduced hours and duties. Allow remote or hybrid working for emotional safety and space. I appreciate that's not always applicable or viable for all roles, but if it can be offered. Employees, you shouldn't expect employees need time. They can't be expected to return to work and everything be normal. And as I said before, not everyone feels the same. Coming to work for them can be helpful, others not. Grief isn't linear and it's not one size fits all, so you have to be flexible. You need to ensure that you've got clear and inclusive bereavement policies. So you need to be clear about current legislation. Affirm the company's commitment to supporting employees during the time and beyond legal obligations. You should apply this to parents, partners, employees who are part of surrogacy and adoption. The policy should be inclusive of all gender identities, sexual orientation and family structures. If able and financially viable, you should offer additional paid leave over and above the statutory amount. Options could also extend to annual leave, sick leave and unpaid leave. You need to make sure you keep the process simple and clear. The last thing an employee going through this wants is to kind of jump through hoops with a policy that's not going to make sense. And also make sure your managers have clear guidance and they know what they're doing. So recent legislation change. So the Neonatal Care Leave and Pay Act 23 came into effect in April 25. Although this has been primarily designed to support parents of babies who require neonatal care after birth, however, it can also provide crucial support to parents who are bereaved during or after this period. If a baby is seriously ill or likely to die, neonatal leave gives parents protected time to be present in those vital final days or weeks. This leave also allows the employee to focus on their child's care and say goodbye without the stress of work. If the baby dies during or shortly after neonatal care, the leave can be used to grieve, plan a funeral, and assist with recovery. This leave can help to reduce the reliance on sick leave and unpaid leave, and it can also run alongside or precede parental bereavement leave, giving families additional time and flexibility. The leave is paid, and there is obviously, like with a lot of the statutory leave, there's an eligibility criteria, but it will reduce financial pressure during a period of emotional trauma. This leave acknowledges that some babies don't survive neonatal care and grief follows a complex medical journeys. Line managers and HR teams must be prepared to respond appropriately with compassion. So you're possibly aware of the Employment Rights Bill. So there's going to be possible changes over the next few years. And as part of this also includes the current bereavement rights and child loss rights for employers and employees. So as part of the proposed legislation changes included within the Employment Rights Bill, the government has proposed the following amendments in law. Bereavement leave for miscarriage, so now before 24 weeks, currently it's after. So this will be for employees who experience pregnancy loss, so miscarriage, ectopic, molar pregnancy or embryo loss in IVF, and will be entitled to at least 1 week of leave. So initial government proposals will be for this to be unpaid, but consultations are ongoing as to if statutory bereavement pay will apply. The changes are expected to come into force in 2027, allowing employees to adjust policies and procedures. In addition, although it's kind of slightly different, so the Maternity Leave Bereavement Act in 2024 received royal assent in May 2024, and it's likely it will become law and come into force at some point in 2026. Again, we don't know quite what it's going to look like yet. This act will look at giving the right of the father or partner to take extended leave upon the death of the birth mother or death of the person with whom a child is placed or expected to be placed for adoption. This will look to help organisations expand their compassion and bereavement leave support. These are just a few links. I myself have done some training with SANS. They do some really, you will find a lot of charities do some really good in training for companies on how to support their employees. SANS in particular do some really good training on bereavement support, very much for line managers, what to say and what not to say. And they are a really good resource. Tommy's, again, Tommy's specifically focus on the research side of child loss or stillbirth and miscarriage. And again, they do some really good training and support links for companies. Crews are a bereavement charity. You've got the Miscarriage Association, and again, they do some good work on looking at miscarriage in the workplace. There's Child Bereavement UK, and they look at how you can support your colleagues. The Lullaby Trust, they were set up in regards to supporting families for babies for sudden infant death. We used to call it cot death, and they do some really good bereavement training. And you've also got child death helpline as well, which can be a really good resource for affected employees. Any questions? Obviously, if anyone's got any questions, send them over to us. I know there are some details in the links. Any questions directly to myself, my email address is sian.collin at thsp.co.uk. Thanks for attending, and I appreciate it's quite a heavy topic, but it is really, really important. And I think it's essential that companies have a better and wider understanding of how to support people, because it is such a sensitive topic. Thanks for attending.